All right, you guys, this is episode 12 of Inner Demons. First, let me just start this out first by saying I appreciate all the positive feedback that I've been continuing to get from you guys that have been following these episodes of Inner Demons. Um, Let me just get straight into it. So, episode 12, I just left San Quentin. They sent me to Susanville. I got to Susanville, and basically I was trying to readjust to being in that environment, being around Southsiders. I had been accustomed to gang banging on the streets. It's the first time I had been around Southsiders, and I was about to program with them. And like I told you guys, man, when I got off the bus, it almost seemed like there was no Norteños out there on the yard. There was a couple Southsiders, Gato from San Fernando, one in particular that I remember that was kind of like pressing us when we got off the bus. Or they made it seem like they were waiting for us to finish getting processed and then it was going to be on. I didn't know what to expect. I knew that Susanville had a history of rocking and rolling. That's what I used to hear, that Susie's house was rocking. So anyway, like I said, man, after we got processed, this is the first time that I had seen a couple homies walk up. It was Ruben Feeble from Hayward, Johnny, I forget his last name, but he was from Salinas. Now in episode 11, I believe that I told you guys that after basically the homies had snatched me up and gave me the rundown on the yard, you know, because when I got there, I was ready to get off, man. I was all amped up, and the homie was like, "Hey, bro, check it out. Come here." Snatched me up, woo, and was like, "Look, bro, you can't do that, homie. You know what I mean? There's certain things that you got to adhere to out here. There's certain policies and procedures and regulations that you got to abide by. You can't just come out here and do that." And I was like, "Bro, these fools, since we got off the bus, man, you know, this is you know, it seems like these cats were waiting to push up on us." And nah, bro, it's cool, man. There's like 120 homeboys out here. There's like 120, 130 Southsiders. The numbers were even on the 2-yard, and that right there was it was rare that numbers were even like that. Norteños have always been the minority. For whatever reason, most main lines, the Norteños have always been the minority. But those numbers were pretty even out there on the Sierra yard, on the 2-yard in Susanville at that time. Anyway, so once the homies pulled me over, sat me down, gave me the rundown on the yard, let me know how the program was out there. The whole get down on the yard, where our benches were at, what side of the weight pile we had, where, you know, our strongholds were at on the yard, where we sat in the chow hall, everything. They went through everything with me, and at that point, I still didn't. I wanted to expose my status, because I thought I knew who the hermanos were, but I fell back. Like Chocolate had told me, and Puerto Rican Puppet, they advised me just to go up there and to just basically fall back, and that they would find me. And they did within, it was probably like 2 or 3 days. Mikeo from San Jose was there. Duke, Eddie Horsley was there. There was another cat named Sugar Bear from San Leandro. Ruben Feeble was there. And there was somebody else. It's not coming to me right now. But those were the main cats that were. Oh, and then there was another cat named Tony out of, I want to say he was out of Hayward. Anyway, so within a couple of days, they basically Ruben approached me, because I had known Ruben from the reception center in San Quentin, and you know, he got at me, "Hey, bro, ain't you at hermano? Didn't they pull you over there? You know, I know Puerto Rican Pups was hollering at you, bro." And I was like, "Yeah, bro." So anyway, from that point on, I was pretty much always around the hermanos that were there. So in episode 11, I had told you guys that, I was a little troublemaker. Me, Ruben, and Johnny, we were like-minded. We were running around on the yard, basically calling out Southsiders, and that's what we were doing. We wanted to fight. We were taking turns, and that's what we were doing. And it got to a point to where the Southsiders basically got tired of it. They put a squad together of like 7 or 8 cats, and I believe I told you guys that we were playing horseshoes one day. Me, Ruben, I know Duke was there, and I believe Sugar Bear was there. And we seen a commotion in one of the corners by dorm 64. There's a little area where we used to kind of kick back, and all we seen is like 7 or 8 Southsiders come out of a dorm and then run up the stairs, and then they were up on the because there's 2 floors over there in on the yard, or two tiers, the first tier and the second tier where the dorms are at. So we seen them go up the stairs and go into one of the dorms up on the second floor. So we walked over there to see what was going on. That's when me, Ruben, and Duke went in the dorm, and we seen Weasel from Fresno laid out. They had thrown hot coffee in homeboy's face. They basically ambushed him. They went in there, caught him slipping by himself, threw hot water in his face, and fucking just stomped him out. They packed him out, man. Homeboy was fucked up. When I went up in there to see what was going on, man, he was still laid out, still trying to fucking get up off the floor. So anyway, we got him up, dusted him off, and when we walked out of the dorm, the Southsiders were already grouping up. Like I said, there was like 120 of them. They were already outside the dorm, right there in the corner, and COs, they had already caught wind of what was happening. They started coming out of the gun towers and getting up on the roofs, on top of the dorms, and the gunners were up there posting up because they were anticipating something happening. And then you had a bunch of yard officers that came out and kind of tried to start breaking shit up. They called yard recall, but before they did, we basically started passing word around. Hey, when you guys get back to your dorms, kick it off, man. Set it off. We're gonna get off. You know what I mean? They just jumped on a homie. So me, Ruben, and Johnny, I know it's repetitive. I already talked about this, man. But anyway, me, Ruben, and Johnny went back to our dorm. There was only one Southsider in that dorm. He was an older dude. This dude wasn't. He wasn't a troublemaker, man. I kind of felt bad having to do this cat like that, but he was the only cat in that dorm. He was just like an older Sureño that used to mind his own business. He used to run the track. He always had a Walkman on. He used to just do his thing, mind his own business, man. But he sensed what was happening. When we came in the dorm, he picked up on those vibes, or he seen something that told him that it was on, man. And obviously, everybody knew what had just happened. A Norteño just got rushed by the Southsiders. Just got packed out. So this dude, when we went in the dorm, like a couple minutes later, we were waiting for the COs to come by and lock all the dorms because they just slammed the yard down. So when they came by, they locked the door, and this guy took off his Walkman, put it in his locker, locked up his locker, and went up in the TV area where the Woods were playing cards, and he tried to sit at the table with them guys. Like he tried to surround himself with them. It was obvious. The Africanos even seen it. We didn't even tell the Africanos nothing. We didn't tell them what we had intentions on doing. They just basically they seen what was happening, and they approached us and said, "Check this out, man. We see old boy went over there with the Woods. You guys handle your business, man. If that's what you guys are gonna do, if the Woods are gonna try to get involved, we got your back." So that's what it was, man. And I basically went over there to where, because I told Ruben and Johnny, "How you guys want to do this?" And they were just like, "Call him in the back, bro. Tell him we want to holler at him." So I went up into the TV area where he was at, and I was like, "Hey, homie, let me holler at you, bro." And he was all, "What's up?" And "Let me holler at you, bro. You know what I mean? Let me talk to you. I want to get at you about something." And he was like, "Well, you can holler at me right here." I said, "Check this out, man. Look, bro. There's two ways we can do this, man. We can either do it right here, or you can come to the back and get what you got coming, man. You know what's up." And from that point on, it was obvious that he wasn't gonna come to the back of the dorm. So I went back to where Ruben and Johnny were in the back of the dorm by the bathrooms, and I told him, "Hey, he's homeboy's stuck up there, and he's not gonna leave the table." Anyway, so after getting at Ruben and Johnny, we just decided to just go up into the TV area and just deal with them right there, and that's what we did. We walked up in there, the woods seen what was up, they stood up, they kind of backed up, and we rushed them. We stomped them out, man. Not even 2 or 3 minutes later, the COs were already searching. We didn't know, but by the time we were done stomping this dude out, they were next door in the dorm next door searching. We were next. So like not even a minute or two later, they popped the doors open. They came in through both doors, the front door and the back door. And they came in, they weren't searching the dorm, they were looking at everybody's hands to see any kind of signs of if anybody had been in a physical altercation. That's what they do. Whenever there's a melee or a stabbing or somebody gets beat down like that on the yard, they'll do they'll check for any kind of injuries, busted knuckles, any kind of visible injuries. So that's what they did. They made us take off our shirts and they made us show them our hands. I didn't think my hands were fucked up, but I had a habit of doing my burpees on my knuckles, so it used to make my knuckles always red and swollen. My knuckles didn't look like they were fucked up, but when they looked at them, they snatched me up. Ruben, they snatched him up. His knuckles were busted up. Same thing with Johnny. So all three of us were gone. The funny part about it, man, is there was only one other dorm that got off. I think there's like 64 dorms. There's only one other dorm that got off after we got off. It was another hermano. Matter of fact, that's who I was trying to think of. Manuel, out of San Jose. He got off by himself. A lot of the other norteños out there, they didn't do nothing. Everybody kind of went back to their dorm and went back to programming, man. So anyway, this is the first time I really went to ADSEG in Susanville. So they snatched us up. They take us to ADSEG. It was on the 4-yard or on the 3-yard on Lassen. This is where the ADSEG was at. Me and Ruben ended up selling up. Now this was the first time that I would get to be around other hermanos and really get some quality glesha, some schooling. Geronimo from Soledad was over there. There was another individual named Noodles from Salinas. He was there. And then there was Ruben and a couple of Duke. Duke came through the hole. And Johnny was there. So, while we were there, I think we might have stayed there in ADSEG for about a month, maybe 2 months. It wasn't that long. It was just, we got into a physical altercation. That's all it was. It wasn't a stabbing. It wasn't nothing like that. So basically, when we went to classification, the first time we went to ICC, they basically just cleared us for the yard. They didn't have our C files and none of that. And they cleared us for a program to come out. In Susanville, in the administrative segregation unit, the way it used to work is like this. So you go into the building and there's 3 sections, A, B, and C section. They have chain link fences sectioning off each section. So when you come out, you basically program on the floor with whoever they got you programmed with. You're a South Sider, you come out with other South Siders. Woods come out together. They run the yard, but up in Susanville, it snows a lot. So a lot of the times they don't run the yard when it's snowing. They would run the program inside the building. So for the next 30 days until we went back to ICC, that's where we stayed. And while we were there in AdSeg, Geronimo, he was the one that had the keys at that time. He was a little bit older. I was 19. I was still a young hermano. He was running the hole at that time. I believe later on Jasper would come through from Soledad, but at that time Geronimo was there. So this is when I started learning more about the bonds. I started studying the format. I started doing a lot of written and verbal breakdowns. A lot of it consisted of me writing essays, me and Ruben in the cell doing verbal breakdowns, and then the essays would get sent to Geronimo or whoever there was the maestro over there at the time. I think he was doing it. So it's ran like a school. The same way that you used to study in school, we would turn in our work, our essays, and it would, like when I was a maestro years later, the way it would work, and it was the same way over there in Susanville, is say we were studying bond 4. I go out to the yard, I give them a verbal breakdown. Well, I'd ask them first. I'd recite the bond, and then I would go around the circle and ask each one of them one by one, what does this mean to you? What is your interpretation of this bond? What is it saying? So each one would give their verbal interpretation of what the bond meant. Me as a maestro, I would correct them if they were off course or if they had the wrong interpretation. I would give them the proper definition of what the bond meant, because a lot of times a lot of these things, the bonds, the format, it's open for misinterpretation. These guys, they could think it means something else when it doesn't. So as a maestro, it's my responsibility to make sure that they're on the right track. When they send their essays to me, I would go through it. I'd read everything, read their essays, and then I'd write little footnotes. Hey, brother, you're on the right track. This is good, but check this out. In a scenario like this, you might want to think about this, think about that. It's all about opening up their minds, expanding their minds into different facets, different areas. So that's how it works. And if they do good, you know what I mean, I put 5 little gold stars and a little smiley face like you used to get. I'm bullshit, man. But, as a maestro, I would tell them, hey, good job, brother. You know what I mean? This is good. You got the correct interpretation, and I give them a little bit of feedback. So that's basically what they were doing over there in Susanville, what Geronimo was doing. Throughout the years, over the years, the next 5-6 years that I was at Hermano, before I would make a commitment to the NF, that's all I would study was the bonds, the format, weaponry, sign language, mainline training, the 7 phases, the same shit, just different faces, different time, different faces, man. But it was always the same shit: bonds, format, weaponry. Bonds, format, weaponry. Seven phases, mainline training. A lot of the more in-depth schooling would come later. Stuff like the NF training. A lot of it's along the same lines, but it's more intensive and it's more geared towards leadership. Then you got other areas like you got street activities, and you got Grey's Anatomy. Grey's Anatomy, what that is basically you guys have probably heard it talk about hearing about other gang members talk about stuff like this. But Grey's Anatomy is we used to, like when I was up in Pelican Bay, occasionally some of the homies would order books on the human anatomy. Now, the reason why we have books on the human anatomy, we would study the human anatomy, is because it's not because we're trying to figure out how to get rid of gout, or we got back problems and shit like that. Um, that's not why we would order those books. The reason why we would order a book that breaks down the human anatomy and tells you where everything's at in the human body, all the arteries, all the major organs, is because we want to identify those areas. If I stab you, I want to make sure that I hit you in your kidney, that I hit you in your liver, or that I hit you in a major artery. That's the whole purpose of Grey's Anatomy. Years later, when I would be a maestro and I would train Northaniels on Grey's Anatomy, I'd take my t-shirt off, lay it on the ground, and I'd be like, this is where the heart's at. These are the lungs, these are the kidneys, this is the liver. This is where one of the main arteries runs right here. This is the jugular vein. Anything in the head, anything in the face, eyeballs, top of the head. These are all areas that basically, when you stab somebody, you're trying to kill them. But these are all areas that maximize, damage, effect. That's what you're basically trying to do when you stab somebody. You're not just trying to put a couple holes in them. You're trying to hit a major organ. You're trying to rupture an artery, make them bleed out. That's the whole purpose of Grey's Anatomy. So anyway, like I said, we ADSEG is usually, it's a time when these are the training grounds. This is the time when, this time is supposed to be spent productively studying, and absorbing as much education as you can. The history, where we came from, where we're going. The bonds are like the NR's toolbox. Everything that you need to know is in those 14 bonds. Everything that you need to know about how to function within that movement is contained in those 14 bonds. The rules, regulations, policies, conduct, discipline, it's all in there. The format is basically your history, where you came from, where you're going. So these things were instilled systematically whenever we would go to the oils. We're out there on the main lines. They're still giving klesha, but it's not as intense as it is in the oils. Because you have nothing but time back there. You're locked in the cell most of the day, and this is how you spend your time educating yourself. You can never learn enough. It's a non-stop, it's a never-ending process. Doesn't matter how sharp you are, you can never have enough seasoning. Anyway, so eventually we would end up going to committee. We'd end up going to ICC. Now, when we went to committee, they kicked us out to the 3-yard. 2-yard. That was it on the 2-yard. We basically my points got jacked up. I was borderline level 3 already, so that put me on the 3-yard, made me a level 3, which I didn't mind, because a level 3 is cell living. I didn't have to deal with living in the dorms, you know what I mean, being around 30, 40 other cats in an open area like that. It wasn't that I was scared to live in that type of environment. I was uncomfortable. I didn't like living like that. You know what I mean? I was all, especially at that time, especially around Southsiders, I was always used to getting off with these guys, man. Let alone being in a dorm, sleeping next to one right next to me, in a bed, or a couple beds over, just programming in the dorm together, man. It was just kind of weird for me. It was something that I had to adjust to. It took some time. Anyway, so they kicked us out to the 3-yard. Literally, I walked out of the 4 building, onto the 3-yard. They cut me loose. When they cut you loose, they dress you out. Basically, they pop open the rotunda doors and you walk out. I walked out with my bedding and some of my property. They sent me to Building 5. That's where they housed me at. This was prior to them opening up the gym and putting bunk beds in there, so I didn't have to go through that shit. So they had housed me in Building 5 at that time. As soon as I got to Building 5, I walked in and I was walking up the stairs. As soon as I hit the top of this, well, as I'm walking up the stairs, one of the porters, it's a Southsider, Junior from Riverside, we make eye contact. He was on the 2-yard. He was there when Ruben got off with Gato, and Tito from Stockton was another hermano that was there. Anyway, when Gato from San Fernando got off with Ruben, I was there, and basically I was cheerleading for him. I was like, "Come on, bro, whip that motherfucker, get that motherfucker home." You know what I'm saying? So this cat Junior remembered me. So when I'm walking up the stairs, this cat's mean mugging me. Like, we lock eyes and shit. We're mean mugging each other. And when I get to the top of the stairs, he spins around. He's like, "What's up, Esse? You know me? You know me from somewhere? You got something you want to get off your chest?" And I'm like, man, as matter of fact, I do. Matter of fact, I do. So I was like, hold that thought, bro. You know what I mean? Now, this was between. You can't you can't just go in a cell. I couldn't just take him in the cell right then and there, because it was, what they have is, like, they have unlocks every 2 or 3 hours or something, and during an unlock that lasts for like 15 minutes, the COs will open up the doors and they stay open during the unlock. So that's the time to take them in the cell. If we would have went to the cell right there, we would have got busted. He was a porter. I walked in the building. All the cells were shut. It was in between. It was in between an unlock. So if I would have got my door popped and I would have took him in there, we would have got busted. So about 10 minutes later, well, I go in. I get my cell door popped open. I go in. I drop my property off, and then I go back out to the yard. I go out to the yard, and the first thing I do is I look for some homies. I see some homies that I know that were on the 2-yard, and I tell them, "Hey, check this out, man. I'm about to go in the cell with this cat right now. They got me housed in 5 building. We just had words, and he called me out, bro. So we're gonna go in the cell. I need somebody to post up." So they were like, "Yeah, bro, let's do it." So we walked back to Building 5. We posted up in front of the building, and we waited for unlock. Boom, they announced unlock. Doors open. The Sally Port doors open. So now, anyway, I go in the building. Tootie posts up on the first tier. He's down there with Payaso and a couple other cats. They're posted up. They know what's going on. I walk over to 209 where this cat Junior's at. He's in there with the cat named Eddie from Dinuba. You guys will hear about him later. But so I opened up the door and I'm like, "Hey, bro, check it out. Let's go take care of that, bro. Let's go down to my cell." So, when I opened up the door and I said that, it was almost like he acted like he didn't know what was happening. Like, I guess he thought, that I wasn't gonna come back and confront him. But, he came out. He walked out on the tier. He didn't have a shirt on. He walked into my cell. I was already in the cell. He walked in. I told him, pull the door. He pulled the door shut, and we got off. I'm not gonna lie, man. I'm not pumping myself up. I'm not putting the 2 on the 10. I'm telling you guys straight up. If I would have got, he would have got me. I was 19. You got to bring some ass to get some ass, man. Sometimes you lose. But I thumped this dude. He was, I was a pretty good sized youngster. He was skinny. He was a skinny, tall dude, man. And I made quick, easy work out of this dude. I picked him up, body slammed him, and just basically sat on top of him and drilled him until he was like, "All right, that's it. All right, I'm done already. We're done." And I was like, "Nah, fuck that. We're not done until I'm done." You know what I'm saying? But anyway, when I'm on top of him, I'm straddling him and I'm just bombing on him. Then I catch my breath, and then I sock him a couple more times, catch my breath, and all he's doing is blocking. He ain't even fighting back, man. He's like, bro, we're done, that's it, right? I look over at the window and I see Payaso's face from Sakura. He's just smiling like, you're a fool, bro. You know what I mean? Anyway, um, at some point I get up, I let the dude up, and I was like, man, get the fuck out of my cell, bro. You know what I mean? He's like, hey, check it out, Holmes. I'm like, hey, man, check nothing out, bro. Get the fuck out of my cell. And he was like, man, hey, you give me my respect, I'll give you your respect, man. You know what I mean? And we'll just leave it at that. So he walked out. He walked back to his cell. I walked down to the homies. I'm getting high fives, motherfucking good games. The homies, I thumped him, man, straight up. You know what I mean? Everybody knew it. That was my first physical altercation on the 3-yard. One of a few. And anybody that's done time with me in Susanville knows that I had multiple cell fights over there until basically I got tired of fighting these dudes. Because it was like, later on, and I'm going to get more into this later, like buses kept coming in from down south. And a lot of youngsters, they obviously talked about it. Like I had a history of going in the cell with some of their homies. It was like, I went into the cell with a bunch of these dudes and got them up. But at some point, I was like, man, I'm not going to keep fighting all these motherfuckers. It seemed like every youngster that would pull up would start me mugging. And, some of these dudes were like 80 fucking pounds, man. You know what I mean? It was laughable. But it got to the point where I was like, man, I'm not going to fight every Southsider on this yard. You know what I'm saying? I'm getting tired of going in the cell with these dudes. And later on, Eddie from Dinuba we became kind of cool, man. And he would check his homies that would come, that would try to get off the bus and pump their chests out. He would tell them, hey, that dude's a gorilla. He's going to take you in the cell and he's going to beat your fucking ass. You know what I mean? Because I would let him know, I'd be, hey, Eddie, check it out, bro. Your little homie, he's mean mugging. Obviously, he wants to go in the cell and he wants to take a shot at the title. If he's gonna make me go in there and thump him, bro, I'm gonna fuck him up. And he needs to get off the yard, bro. You know what I'm saying? These little youngsters keep trying to push up on me. He's like, bro, let me handle it. So basically that's what they started telling these youngsters. Hey, if you go in the cell with this dude and he whoops your ass, you're gonna have to get off the yard. We're gonna make you roll it up, man. If I was you, I'd leave that dude alone. And most of the time, eventually, I stopped getting into it with them. They stopped trying to push up on me, man. But it was obvious that, when they hit the yard, they must have talked about it. Somebody must say that, that fucking Buster, you know what I mean? He went in the cell with a couple homies. And so this kind of made me a target, man, for a bunch of others that would later want to take a shot at the title too, man. But, man, anyway, so I barely even put my property down, and I was already getting them up. I was already in a conflict with that cat Junior. We dealt with it like men. We went in the cell, we handled our business, and that was the end of it. There was no more mean mugging. Obviously, he wasn't trying to pump his chest out no more. He knew that he got whooped, and I didn't let it get to my head. I didn't walk around the yard beating my chest either. We dealt with it, and from that point on, man, we never had any other issues. I would have other issues with some of his other homies, but we never had any other issues. Anyway, so tell you guys like this, man. So this was around 1990, 1992, 1991, 92. So when I hit the 3-yard Lassen, the gym was still intact. You could still go in the gym, and they still had a punching bag, and I think they had a couple ping pong tables, and you could go in there, play basketball, and it was an active gym where you could go in there and do your thing, work out, whatever. But this was around the time when all the prisons in California started to become overcrowded. So what they were doing was they started gutting all the gyms. They started taking out all the equipment, and then they started putting in bunk beds, triple stacked. This was to alleviate the overcrowding. And it wasn't just at Susanville. This shit was happening all over the state. At damn near every prison in the state of California. That's what they were doing to ease the overcrowding. So, you know, the yard was already crowded. It was already there's 5 buildings out there. One is an AdSec building, but there was already like, I want to say it was like 100 North Daniels, but it was it was probably like almost close to 2 to 1. It was probably like 180 Southsiders. But when they opened up the gym and they converted it to a dorm, a huge dorm, they started bringing in buses from Chino. A lot of Sureños started coming in, man. They started bringing, most of the buses that were coming from Southern California. Every once in a while, we get a bus from Northern California, the reception center, San Quentin, but the majority of the buses were coming from down south. Anyway, so, you know, I hit the yard, and you know, on the 2 yard, obviously I was only there for a couple weeks. I didn't have a chance to get a job. I didn't go to vocation. I didn't get a chance to do none of that stuff. You know, the yard was established out there. The hermanos had the yard established, and what I mean by that is there was none of that craziness going on. The Southsiders weren't pushing up on the Norteños out there. They weren't telling us we couldn't take our shirts off because we had Norte blasted on us. There wasn't nobody paying rent out there. We had everything we had coming to us. The hermanos made sure that the Norteños that were out there had everything that they got. We had the same amount of benches as they did. We had the same amount of phones in the building as they did. We had our side of the building. I mean, you know, prison politics, man. But the hermanos, it was established. The yard was established. We had our weapons out there. We had hermanos that were, you know, I was one of them that was assigned to yard security. I had to be out there on the yard from the first unlock until the last lockup, until the yard closed at nighttime. But I basically would have to be out there as a hermano, patrolling the yard and making sure that nothing was happening out there. You know, when you go to prison, man, and you go out to a yard and you become familiar with that environment, once you learn how that yard, how it runs, how people interact out there, how they program, you can read it. When there's a break in the monotony, you know something's wrong. Humans are creatures of habit, man. We program ourselves and we do things a certain way, and we continue to do it like that because we developed a sense of comfort when something becomes familiar. So a prison yard is ran the same way. You know what I mean? You might have some Africanos that are out there playing basketball. That's what they do. Every day you'll see some Africanos on the basketball court playing basketball. You'll have some Southsiders and Norteños playing handball on the handball courts. You have certain individuals that run the track. You'll have certain individuals that will be doing bar work. Then you had the weight pile. This is when they still had weights out there. So the yard basically runs like it does every day. It's the same thing. It's the same amount of people out there. The same people pretty much programming the way that they programmed the day before, and the day before that, and the day before that. Now, like I said, when there's a break in the monotony, whenever there's a lot more inmates on the yard than what there normally is, something's going on. That's a pretty good indication that there's something going on. And you know, if you're on your P's and Q's, man, and you're watching, you know it's 90 degrees out and motherfuckers got their jackets on, their boots, and they're not wearing their Bonnaroo shit, what they call, you know, their personal shit, their sweats, their tennis shoes. You know when they're wearing their state shit and they got their jackets on and it's fucking 100 degrees out, something's going on. That's one indication. Grouping. That's another, you know, that's another telltale sign that something's going on. When you see more people out there on the yard and they're grouping up, something's about to kick off. When a lot of the times the North and South, they're the ones, we were the ones that used to. Most of the time, most of the wars that happened out there were between the North and the South. And a lot of the times, whenever we got ready to get off, or we knew that something was about to kick off, you seen a lot of people going to the canteen and loading up on shit. They would load up on cosmetics, load up on soups, in anticipation for a long lockdown. So you see a lot of guys in canteen stocking up. They're fucking getting ready for a lockdown. You know what I'm saying? So um, that's another telltale sign. Uh, there's just certain ways that people move out there, certain things that you're gonna see it's gonna something's gonna cue you that there's something going on, man. And with us, the Norteños, when there's a situation like that out there, when either we read something on the yard or we know something's about to go down because we put our people on notice. Usually, what will happen is we'll go around and we'll tell the other Norteños or the other homies, hey, we're on a half 60, we're on a quarter 60. Um, if you're on a full 60, that means something definitely is gonna happen. To keep your eyes open, to watch, to be on your toes. Somebody's gonna get whacked. A half 60 is basically like something might be happening. Stay on your toes, up your security. Pay attention to everything that's going on around you. Quarter security, something might be going on. There's something awry. There's something happening that led somebody to believe that there might be something happening out there. So, we put our people on notice. Now, the other thing is, at this time, Fresno was still going to yard with us. They were still programming. I had a good rapport with a lot of dudes from Fresno. I liked them dudes, man. They were deep as fuck. And there was a lot of good dudes from Fresno. I mean, I used to fuck with them dudes, man. I used to play handball with them. I used to play fucking pinochle with them. I kicked it with them on the yard. I drove iron with them. I liked a lot of them cats from Fresno, man. There were some good ass dudes, just like other Norteños from, they were just like other cats from Central Cal, Tulare County, Visalia, out that way, man. Fresno. There was a lot of good homies from Fresno, and they were deep as fuck. They had a pretty big car, man. But there was this 91, 92. This is when the tension between the collective and Fresno was just starting. It was just starting to develop, man. There was bad blood, you know what I mean? Bulldogs and F-14ers. It was starting to be talked about. We were aware that Bulldogs and F-14ers was a new, basically was a new movement out of Fresno. And these guys, at least from what we were hearing at that time, their philosophy, their whole get down was they were anti-NF, and they were basically trying to push for their independence. Fresno wanted to be its own. They wanted to manage their own people. They wanted to oversee their own people. They didn't want to fall under the NF. They didn't want to be part of the collective. Fresno always stuck to themselves out there on the yard. They kicked it. It was all, that's Fresno over there. You know what I'm saying? They didn't kick. Some of them would come and kick it with the other homies. You know what I mean? Because they just didn't. They didn't want to be a part of that, that separation. So they come and kick it. And I met a lot of good dudes, man. I had a lot of good rapport with them, and that would go a long way later on when shit would kick off on the yard. So that was another thing. The something else about the Lassen yard was there was a lot of tension out there between the hermanos. There was Cruz Vasquez, Sleepy from San Jose, Sugar Bear from San Leandro was back out there. Tony from I want to say San Jose, he was back out there. Duke, he came to the 3 yard. I was there. Ruben Fibo was out there. Who else? Paco from Sacramento was out there. Chino, Jimmy Valdivia, he was out there. There was a bunch of us, man. But there was a lot of tension going on between the hermanos. Um, there was some bad blood that was happening. One of the situations that happened was actually, I talked about this in one of my spills, but I had a homeboy named Joe Curligan that came out to the 3 yard. He was a good dude. I used to run around with him in Frisco. We used to hit licks together. We ran around in the Mission District, and we used to give the paisas. We used to give them the blues, man. We robbed connections, like just that's what we did, man. I knew Joe was a hothead, and I knew he was a loose cannon. When he hit the yard, the first thing I did is snatch him up. Joe, bro, I'm asking you out of respect, homie. You know what I mean? To kick back, bro. Don't cause any unnecessary problems out here, man, because you're going to put me in an awkward position. You know I'm a hermano. I function, bro. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, you can't push your weight around out here. You can't bully motherfuckers out here. You can't push up on dudes. You can't run around on this yard and do what you want, homie. Give me that respect, bro. And Joe respected me. He had a lot of respect for me. And he was like, yeah, bro, you know, straight up, homie. You know what I mean? You know, he was older than me, but he respected the fact that I was an NR member, and he respected the fact that you know, I was doing my thing, you know. So I could contain him. I could contain Joe as long as I was around him, and you know, I had an eye on him, man. But what ended up happening is he ended up selling up with a cat named Joel Lopez, and you guys are gonna hear more about this guy later on too. So he sold up with Joel Lopez, and apparently my boy Joe and Joel, for whatever reason, they were bumping heads in the cell. It's probably because Joe was pushing up on him and he was probably bullying them. But whatever the case was, Joel started crying about it. He came out to the yard and he reported to the homies that Joe was pushing up on him and that he threatened him. By this time I had gotten a job working in the kitchen, and I was at work. I used to work from the morning to the afternoon. So when this incident kicked off, I was at work. I wasn't out on the yard. Had I been out on the yard, it would have never escalated the way it did. You know, and I got upset later because the other hermanos that were out there, they could have waited. And they could have waited till I got off work and let me get at Joe, and it would have got straightened out. But they pushed the issue. They fucking ended up getting with Joel and giving him a pedazo and telling him, hey, if this dude threatens you, bro, go ahead and book him. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, what ended up happening was while I was at work, Joe and Joel had words, and Joe basically told Joel, you come back to the cell, I'm gonna fuck you up, man. Don't come back to the cell. I guess by then they were really bumping heads, man. So Joel got this pedazo, and at that last unlock, or that last lockup, when everybody had to lock up for count, Joel had that pedazo and he had to go to the cell. So when he went to the one building where he was housed at, Joe was waiting in front of the building, and Joe basically told him, hey, you try to come up in there, man, I'm gonna fuck you up. I mean, he was a fool, man. Homeboy was a hothead. Joel was scared. He was scared, you know. And I mean, when you push somebody in a corner like that and you scare them, they're gonna strike back, and that's what happened. Joe basically told Joel, if you come near this Sally Port right here, I'm gonna fucking rush you. Don't even try to come over here, man. You know what I mean? And so Joel, having to go in the building, he had to go in the cell. He tried to walk into the Sally Port, and from that point on, Joe rushed him. He rushed him. Joel pulled out the pedazo. Joe took the pedazo from him and threw it. He could have fucking hurt him. And this dude couldn't even swing a piece, man. So Joe took the pedazo from him and he spanked him. Beat him up. End of story. They took him to the hole. Um, I got off work that day. I was pissed off, man, when I heard about it. You know, the other hermanos that were there, Sleepy, Chino, Paco. Why the fuck you guys give him a piece, man? Why did you guys? Why did you guys take sides? Why did you guys pick and choose? Why didn't you get it, Joe? Why didn't you pull him aside and hey, homie, check it out, bro. Wait till B gets off, man, and you know we need to holler at you. But for right now, I'm asking you, stand down. You know what I mean? Homeboy's scared of you. Whatever you guys got going on, we'll try to separate you guys. We'll try to get him moved or get you moved. But you know, for right now, stall it out, bro. But that's not what they did. You know, these guys were from, I'm not, you know, big shout out to San Jose. Shout out to my boys from San, man. You guys know I got nothing but love and respect for you cats. But these cats were pushing that San Jose line, man. And that's where Joelle was from. So, you know, they put a piece in his hand to protect their homeboy. They looked out for his best interest. And that's what ended up happening. So, you know, when I confronted him about it, why didn't you guys do it like this? How come you guys did it like that? You know, they were like, hey, your homeboy was posing as an immediate threat. He basically threatened Joelle, and he wasn't trying to hear nothing else. He told Joelle if he comes anywhere near the building, he was gonna fuck him up. So, you know, we knew Joelle was scared, so we gave him an equalizer, man. And that's what it was. It wasn't nothing against your homeboy. It wasn't nothing like that, man. But, you know, I wasn't buying it, man. Like I said, Joe was a hothead. He had a bully mentality, but he could be reasonable. If Sleepy would have got at him, or one of them cats would have pulled him over and got at him, and you know, it's all about the way that they approached it. It could have probably got fucking diffused. You know what I mean? But anyway, Joe ended up going to the hole. I would never see him again. Literally, he went to the hole. He ended up getting transferred out. Joelle stayed in the hole. I would end up running into him later, which I'll get into. But Joe ended up paroling, and then he ended up getting killed out there in Frisco. I heard they found him in the Mission District. One of the Bisons out there, ended up blowing his head off with the shotgun. I mean, disintegrated his head, his whole head. I had heard from another homie that was out there that he said, bro, homeboy's whole head was gone. You know, Joe had a history of robbing Bisons. That's what we did. We were doing home invasions. We were hitting these connections, and I guess it caught up to him, man. You know, there was a bison out there. He robbed the wrong dude, and they went looking for him, and they found him. So that's what happened to him. Anyway, rest in peace to my boy, man. Shout out to Joe Curley here, man. He was a fool. Good dude. A much better dude than Joelle, because he ended up being a greasy motherfucker, man. I'm going to get into that in a little bit. But anyway, so, you know, you had a lot of situations like that were taking place out there on the yard. And these kind of situations ended up causing a lot of animosity between the hermanos out there. Sleepy and Chino from Salinas were going at it. These two guys, literally, I had to get in between them. They both had pedazos. They were going to stab each other. And it was all over, it was all over egos and fucking just bad attitudes, man. There was multiple situations out there on the yard that just were foul. Could have got some of these hermanos stabbed. Could have got them removed. Anyway, so I'm working in the kitchen at that time, like I told you guys. I'm working in the kitchen. I believe the first job that I got was I was on the line pushing trays out right there by the window when You know, when you go into the chow hall and you walk up to the window and you get your tray. I was one of the guys that was on that line pushing the trays. I was a server. So anyway, eventually I would end up becoming a lead man, and I ran that line back there. So I was about to get into my second fist fight. this one was this one was with a guy named Rascal from Grape Street. I talked about it in my book. But anyway, for those of you that haven't read the book, I'm gonna go over it anyway, because that's what this is about right here. So anyway, um, you know, when I was in the kitchen, I wasn't trying to push my weight around. I wasn't trying to beat my chest. I treated the Southsiders just like the Africanos, just like the Woods, just like anybody else. But this dude, Rascal, had a bad attitude. And, you know, he was young too. We were both young. I was 19. He was probably around the same age, if not younger, 18. But you know, a lot of it was a lack of education, a lack of experience. That's what it was, man. Because, so me being the lead man, supervising the line, the day that the situation happened, Rascal was at the end of the line, and he was the one that was basically taking the empty trays and putting them on the line and pushing them through. He's feeding them, but he started feeding them fast to where the guy at the front couldn't push him out the window fast enough. There was like a little lip, and they kept getting caught on that lip, and you know, the trays would get jammed up. Some of them started flipping, and homeboy would have to push him back to get past that lip. And you know, at first I seen what was happening. I didn't say nothing. I just kind of stood back and watched. And the dude thought it was funny, and he kept on, you know, he kept feeding more trays faster and faster. And it got to a point where I put my hand on the trays. I stopped him, and I'm like, "Hey, homeboy, check it out, bro. Stop jamming the trays, man. You're jamming the trays. Homeboy can't get him out the window, bro. So you need to slow down." I didn't get at him crazy. That's literally how I got at him. But when I said that, he was like, "Hey, homeboy," he was like, "Hey, you do your job, I'll do mine." And I told him, "Hey, I am doing my job. That's why I'm telling you. Stop fucking jamming the trays, bro." So anyway, we had words. Everybody seen it. When we were done feeding that day, me as the lead man, I used to always pick two people to stay back that had to clean. And it was on a rotation basis. But that day, Rascal was actually one of the ones that was supposed to stay back. I wasn't tripping, man. You know what I mean? I said what I said. It was my job as the lead man to control that line, and that's what I did. But apparently he didn't like it, and you know, I watched him. I kept my eye on him because we had words, and because he was a Southsider. You know, but you know, him and his homie, they threw a little. They were in the corner huddled up, and I could tell his homie was trying to pump him up, like, "Man, you're gonna just let this fool talk to you like that?" So, you know, I already knew this cat was gonna come try to jam me up. So I'm just doing what I normally do. I'm taking out all the extra, the food, and taking all the big pots out of the fucking out of the ovens and shit. And I'm watching this dude out of my peripheral, and he comes up, right? He's walking towards me. I'm like, here he comes, man, right? So he comes up, and he's like, "Hey, let's check it out, Holmes." He was like, "Look," he was like, "You know, when you get at me, Holmes, get at me with some respect, Holmes. You know what I'm saying?" He was like, "You know, don't talk to me like I'm a fucking little kid, man." Something like that, man. And I'm like, "Check it out, bro. Look, I'm gonna just tell you like this, homeboy. I got at you with respect. I told you to stop jamming the trays, but you wanted to play games. You thought it was funny. You kept jamming the trays. Why you didn't see that they couldn't get the trays out, I don't know. you know, if you feel like I disrespected you, bro, you feel like I got at you like I got at you foul, then deal with it, bro. You know what I'm saying? And he was like, I'm gonna tell you right now, homeboy, you know, uh, just give me my respect, homie. I said, man, look, check this out, bro. I'm gonna tell you like this, man. If you don't like it, deal with it, man. He goes, well, we'll deal with it then. I go, you know what? Matter of fact, I'm a, you're a stay behind. You're one of the stay behinds today. I'm gonna do you a favor. I'm gonna take you off the list so we can go handle this, bro. You know what I'm saying? So I took him off the list, put somebody else on, and there wasn't no other Norteños back there that was working that line. It was on the other side, but not on that side of the chow. So, you know, basically we had agreed to go deal with it. So we were just waiting for the line to shut down and for the COs to open up the doors. So we're standing there. I'm standing there by myself. He's with his homie. They're chopping it up, and they're like, yeah, you know. So they open up the doors. We make a beeline for the 2 building. That's where he was at. I was gonna go to his cell. I'm walking across the yard, and I see Rooster from San Jose, and he sees me walking with 2 Southsiders. So he cuts across the yard, and he's like, "Hey B, what's up, bro?" And I'm like, "Hey man, you know," he's like, "I'm about to go to the cell right now and whoop this motherfucker's ass, bro." And he's like, fuck that, bro. Don't go to his cell. Go to hey, take him to your fucking building, bro. Take him to building 5. But you know what I mean? Take him to your cell. Don't go to his cell. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, yeah, matter of fact, let's go to building 5, bro. Let's go to my cell. So Brewster tells him too, cause he starts calling all, you know, he's calling, hey Shotgun, hey Blinky, hey Spider, and Rooster tells him, hey, why you calling all your fucking homeboys, bro? Go deal with it like a fucking man. It's just you and him. You know what I mean? Don't make this into something that bigger than what it needs to be. You know what I mean? Go fucking get that fade one-on-one, bro. You know what I'm saying? You don't see the homeboy calling everybody. Nobody even knew what was going on, except for he was the only one that found out that I was on my way to get him up with this dude. So anyway, we make a hard left, and now we're headed for building 5. So we get over there, we get into building 5, we walk in, they're following me. We go into the Sally Port. I go up to the fucking cell 236. I have the tower pop my cell door open, and you know he kind of hangs back with his homie until I get the cell open, and then I go up in the cell. Come on, bro. So he comes up in the cell, pulls the door shut, and man, again, this ain't no ego. I'm being straight up with you guys, man. At least I can say Junior tried to fight back. This dude was like, he was a, you know, I don't want to say nothing disrespectful towards him, because I would end up running into him later on death row, and we talked about it and we laughed about it. You know what I mean? Yeah, remember when we were 19, we were kids. Yeah, remember when I thumped your ass, man? I played basketball with your head in the cell. We laughed about it, but I'm just gonna be straight up. He was a dum-dum. He was white, full-blown white guy with blue eyes. He wore some murder ones, and he had he wore some boots, man. I swear to God, they were like some 16s. They were probably like 5 times bigger than his feet, man. And he just carried himself like a dum-dum. You know what I'm saying? That's his own people, you can tell, treated him like that. But anyway, so, you know, when he comes in the cell, man, I mean, I picked him up, lifted him, dipped him, and did the same thing. I literally sat on top of him, straddled him, and played basketball with his head. And, you know, same way, man, you know, he tapped out. He was like, hey, I'm done, bro. You know what I mean? I'm like, you're not done until I say you're done, motherfucker. I sat there for a little bit longer. I basically just kept whooping his ass until unlock was over. when I heard him say, you know, unlock another 2 minutes or something, I got up and I was like, man, get the fuck out of my cell, man. And he opened up the, you know, his eye was busted. I bust his ear open. His ear was leaking. He had a you could tell he was gonna have a nice, pretty black eye, man. So when I told him to get out of the cell, he didn't say nothing. He turned around and he walked out. I can tell, you know, I could tell that uh, not only did I beat him physically, I beat him mentally, man. Because when he walked out of the cell, I kicked him in the ass, boom, and he didn't do nothing. You know, even if that would have been me, even if I would have lost, we would have been fighting again. You know what I mean? You would have kicked me in my ass. But the cold part about it was a lot of his homeboys that were in Building 5, obviously they knew that that was their homie. They seen him come in and they knew. They put two and two together that we were getting him up in the cell. When they seen that, they seen me kick him in the ass like that, and then he just kept walking. I heard that they lost a lot of respect for him. That they treat him. He was already, like I said, a dum dum. But I heard that he had a hard time after that on the yard. When we were done, I walked out. After I kicked him in the ass, I pulled the cell door shut, and I walked down to the sally port. Now, when they don't just open the both doors. There's two doors. There's like a little rotunda. So in order to open that front door to the building, they fill up that little sally port, then they close the gate, and then they open up the front door. So he was in there with his homie, and I came walking in. I walked right up on him. He was standing sideways, and I walked right up on him like sideways, and I'm like, check this out, bro. You ever want your motherfucking runbacks? You know what time it is. I mean, I was just clowning this dude, man. And he stood there and he didn't say nothing. He just kept facing straight, you know what I mean? And that was it. That was the end of that situation with Rascal from Grape Street. Like I said, years later, I would run into him on death row. He'd actually give me a hookup to one of his homegirls from Grape Street that I would write for a couple years. You know, it wasn't personal. We were both young, and it was just a situation that took place, man. But we laughed about it in Quentin, and you know, he caught the death penalty, man. I couldn't believe it when I seen him on death row. I'm like, bro, what the fuck happened to you? But he was, you know, he was somebody like, because of the way he was in Susanville. My guess is that, you know, a dude like that acts like a dum dum and gets treated like that, he probably went out of his way to prove his loyalty to the Sureños, and by whacking somebody, by catching a death penalty case. You know what I mean? That's just my guess, man. But he ended up falling in bad standings years later with the Southsiders on death row. I don't know what happened to him. You know, towards the late 90s, I seen him. He actually stabbed another death row inmate, and that's when he was still in good standings. But I didn't see him no more after that. I don't know if the motherfucker committed suicide. I don't know if he just stayed in his cell. I don't know if he got his case overturned. I don't know, but I never seen him again after that, man. Anyway, there's a lot more shit that happened on the Lassen yard. That's just some of the beginning of it. This is probably a good time to stop right now, because I mean, there's the Fresno split still gotta happen. There's some other altercations I got into. Then there's a group stabbing, how I got validated, and then there's just a bunch of other shit that would happen before you know, I get into some of the stuff that Pelican Bay and all that stuff, in the street activities and all that. So like I said, this is probably a good place to stop, man. You know, I ran an episode yesterday, so I'm running one today. This is the first time I did one back to back. I'm trying to find, or I'm trying to do these now with some some type or some level of consistency, man. So, you know, it's easier for me to continue with where I left off. You know what I mean? It helps me to keep that flow, man, to keep that mojo I keep talking about. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode um, of Inner Demons. Tomorrow, I'll knock out episode 13. With that said, man, I'm out.